Just as a general thing, like how are questions written? It's obviously not that person in the back trying to do
Right.
that, but like, how are they? You have a hard job. I don't know if you know this or not. Like, how are questions written and brought in and tested and stuff?
Okay, so that has not changed since before I was hired. And
Okay.
the way that works is we do a global practice analysis. Every 3 to 5 years, we do a thorough analysis of around the world. We talk with people in every region, every country, we bring in translators. We get to understand what it is that someone needs to know and be able to do as a project manager to be successful across industries, across regions, right? Because we want this credential to say, here I am today in Georgia. Yeah. But hey, maybe tomorrow I want to go to Spain and I can be successful there too, even though it's a completely different region. Even if I'm moving from construction to IT, right?
Yes.
I have the skill set, I have the experience that I can still be successful. Maybe I need to learn a few details about the different industry or region, but I've already shown that I can analyze, evaluate the different pieces that are necessary, regardless of whether I'm going from a predictive environment to an agile environment, right? So that's really, really important. And we don't make that up in PMI. We meet with the people that are in the industry. And then we have PMPs from around the world that we meet with, that they write the content. They look at the ECO that was developed by people like them and hiring managers and all that. And they write questions based on their real world experience. And then they review it with peers to make sure that it's not just applicable to one region or one industry, for example.
Right.
And it goes through a thorough process. So you have a writer, a peer reviewer that's also a project manager. Then it goes to someone on my team that makes sure that the structure of the question is allowing us to measure what we want to measure and not something we don't want to measure, like reading proficiency, right? We try to keep, believe it or not, we try to keep the questions kind of short. So to the purpose. And it goes through all the reviews to make sure that we're not going to measure something that we shouldn't. Like, for example, when you write a negatively worded question, what is not the right answer? First of all, we want to know that you know what to do that's right, not necessarily to avoid the wrong, right? More important that you know what to do. But besides that, the way that people read questions, oftentimes they skip that. So if they get the question wrong, we're not getting a lot of information. We're not sure if they got it wrong because it was awkwardly worded or because they actually didn't know the answer. So it goes through that review. It's usually called a psychometric review. Then it goes through 5 other subject matter experts, 5 other PMPs out there in the world to say, yes, that's the right answer. The wrong answers are wrong. And it's a realistic scenario. This makes sense to ask this question. And then it goes through another psychometric review to make sure that nothing was changed. And then it goes through the editors. And then after the editors, it goes through another PMP to make sure that in changing the editing, to make sure everything was spelled correctly and no typos, we didn't somehow change the meaning of something.
Wow.
And then it gets put on a test as an unscored item. And we field test it, right? So, there's some unscored questions and some scored. You don't know which is which, but they're there and we're making sure that we're testing correctly. So we'll look at how people perform on those questions. We'll make sure that it's not too difficult or too easy. We'll get that estimate of difficulty that's going to help us then estimate people's proficiencies in that psychometric model I mentioned. And if it's not right, if it's not performing correctly, people that know most of it, that are doing well overall, they're not doing well on these individual questions, then we're not going to penalize them for them. It's measuring something we didn't intend. It's removed. It's never part of the score.
Wow.
And that's before we even get into translations, right? If you don't take it.
So you guys have the state. I'm going to go back and listen to everything, all the 73 steps you laid out, which is really good. I think what people should understand from what I got, tell me if I'm right or wrong, is that, first of all, they're not trying to trick you. It isn't what PMI wants, like that there's Mr. and Mrs. PMI in an ivory tower somewhere. It's brought in from the field of real life project managers, hiring managers, et cetera. There's so much sharing back and forth to confirm so that it's not isolated to one, genius individual. and then y'all test it out in real live exam situations. They're not being penalized, but to see if it falls in there, like not too easy. It's Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold. It's like in that like neighborhood.